Good morning, everybody. It is Tuesday, December 16th, 2025. Welcome to today's edition of DouglasNow.com, Douglas Now Live. I'm sorry, Douglas Now Live here on the DouglasNow.com Facebook page. I am Robert Preston Jr. I hope everyone is having a wonderful, wonderful Tuesday. Got several items of news I would like to discuss today. And of course, this is just a small part of what you can find on the DouglasNow.com website and Facebook page. Everything that is on the DouglasNow.com website is on the Facebook page, but not everything that is on the Facebook page is necessarily on the DouglasNow.com website. So you will definitely want to check the website as well as our social media sites. First thing, Sunday night, and I was thinking we were going to have a rather quiet weekend. Of course, we had the Christmas parade on Friday, sort of, again, setting the tone for this last run to the Christmas season, really hoping that the weekend would go quietly without having to go out and cover any sensational or fantastic or otherwise potentially tragic event. Then, around 9 o'clock on Sunday night, I got a phone call that a vehicle, this white Nissan Juke, made its way through the front door, which you can see right here, of the In-N-Out store on 158 West. Now, I do not think this is the first time something like this has happened at the In-N-Out store. But it was a spectacular scene. Of course, it caused a fairly significant amount of damage. You can see folks here cleaning up, went right through the front door. No one was injured, neither the driver nor anyone inside the store. Of course, it was quite cold on Sunday night, quite cold Monday morning, and also quite cold this morning. So, not the time of the year that you want your front door taken out. Not that there's ever a good time of the year for that to happen, but certainly not when it's on some of the coldest days that we've had this year. But thankfully, no one was injured, and there were no citations issued. This is one of those things, when you ask what happened and how it happened, there are a couple of different scenarios and a couple of different possibilities. And you're probably not going to get a straight answer for two reasons. Now, I'm not accusing anyone of being dishonest or otherwise hiding the truth, but when something like this happens, you probably don't want to admit that you had as much to do with it as you did if you're the driver. And then also, you may not know. You may not know. I am finding as I get older that it is increasingly easier to forget to put your car in park, to let things like that slip your mind, to not look like you used to when you're pulling out into traffic or when you're backing up or things like that. So there are all kinds of things that could happen that could lead to something like this. But thankfully, it looked a lot worse than what it was. I asked a couple of the officers on the scene what was going on, if there would be any charges filed, and they said no. This will ultimately end up being an insurance issue, and we will let the insurance companies deal with it. The driver was not impaired, was not suspected of being impaired, and again, was not injured at all. The driver was on the scene, and officers from the Douglas Police Department took him home after his car, of course, here was carried away. So, thought we were going to have a nice, easy weekend without anything spectacular happening, and such was not the case. Now, for a little bit better news, the Coffee County Sheriff's Office made a sizable donation to Satilla Advocacy Services from proceeds that the Sheriff's Department raised through its first ever golf tournament. This is going to be an annual event. It's called the Sheriff's Promise Golf Tournament. So they held it this year for the first time. And of course, this is, the first year of Sheriff Cole's administration. So when he assumed office, he wanted to do this as a fundraiser, and he did. And they raised $25,380 that they presented to Satilla Advocacy Services. Now, why are we talking about this? We did a story on why we're talking about this. Used to, and I think back years, and when I say years, decades ago, the civic clubs and civic organizations that we had in Douglas and Coffee County, and the contributions that those organizations made to other organizations and other agencies here in our community. And we have a number of nonprofits, 501c3s, and then other organizations that do a considerable amount of advocacy work that may not necessarily be nonprofits, but depend on donations to serve our community. There are too many to sit down and list. But you think about the folks you're affiliated with and what you see pop up on social media from time to time. There are a number of organizations that do a tremendous amount of work in our community. They could not do that work without the donations from events like the Sheriff's Department's golf tournament, without organizations like Lions Club, Rotary Club, Kiwanis Club. Those organizations make the Community Foundation of Coffee County. Those organizations support a number of other activities, groups, and initiatives in our community. And what we see happening now is that civic club model is, at the very least, at best, it's changing. At worst, civic clubs are losing their influence, losing the amount of impact and the importance that they used to have in the community. I think back really to my grandfather's generation, my father's generation. It was something that you wanted to do. You wanted to be a part of a Rotary Club, of a Lions Club, Exchange Club, Kiwanis Club, something like that. Now, not so much. We're too busy to get involved. We're too busy to do things like that. All right. But without those types of organizations, and, the Sheriff's Department, nowhere in the Sheriff's Department's mission is it mentioned to support local charities or local advocacy groups. All right. That's not what the Sheriff's Department is primarily tasked with doing. But the Sheriff's Department has added that to its list of duties. And this is a significant contribution. $25,000 to an organization in a community like Coffee County goes a long way. Yes, there are other funds that come in. Yes, there are a lot of other contributors, but this is a significant contribution. And you think about what the Exchange Club used to do with the Hope Center. The Exchange Club made a $10,000 donation every year to the Hope Center for Christmas presents for kids and families. That's a significant donation, and without that money, the Hope Center would not have been able to provide Christmas for the kids it served. Now, the dynamics have changed a little bit, and the Hope Center is no longer operating there in the Oak Park community. All right, the dynamic of that community has changed. The demographics of that community has changed. So the mission of the Hope Center and the mission of the Hope Center's organizers and board have changed. But when the Hope Center was operating as we all know it, that was a significant donation. And it comes from people who are concerned about others, people who want to serve others, people who realize the impact that the dollars can make. All right. So why is this important? And I look at this and I tell folks again, we put stories up here. People, why do you put crime stories up here? And, again, I think it bears mentioning. So this is an overwhelmingly positive story. We put it up on Douglas Now. We got 294 views. And one of those views was me just clicking on the story. So 294 views. We do a story, the in and out wreck that we just mentioned, for example, 4,134 views. All right. We have, a burglary arrest, 2,675 views. We're going to talk about the Coffee High Vex Robotics team here in just a few minutes. 105 views. All right. So people don't pay as close attention to the good news as they do to the bad news. But this is a significant contribution, and I want to use it also as an opportunity to mention the other organizations that do good work in our community, and to also remind those of you who own businesses who have made contributions, this is what your money goes to. All right. If you wonder, do my contributions stay in Coffee County? If I give $100 to sponsor a hole for a golf tournament, Coffee Regional Golf Tournament, the Lions Club Golf Tournament, the Rotary Club Golf, the Sheriff's Office Golf Tournament. If someone hosts a 5K charity run, if someone does, and there are several other types of fundraisers, gun raffles, four-wheeler raffles, cargo trailer raffles. Where does my money go? This is what your money does. Supports organizations like Satilla Advocacy Center, supports other charities that are working in our community. So when people come ask you for money, it's not so the Rotary Club can have, a big party at the end of the year, or the Lions Club, could go have a beach weekend that they call a board retreat or something like that. That's not what your money's going for. Your money will make a direct impact on organizations in our community that in turn serve families, children, victims, and the like. So it's important that we continue to support these organizations. And I want to thank the Sheriff's Office for what they did, and thank the other civic clubs for what they are doing and what they will continue to do. There's a significant amount of money in our community that funnels from these organizations and these agencies into the 501c3s and the other nonprofits who work here. So it's important. So again, good job on the Sheriff's Office, over $25,000 to the Satilla Advocacy Services organization. Hopefully no one watching this will have to utilize their services, but if in fact you do, you will know where that money came from. Another positive story, the Coffee High Vex Robotics team went to a tournament in Fitzgerald and came back with 2 trophy wins. Now, why are we talking about this? First of all, I answered a question a moment ago that I have always wanted to know the answer to. What does the Vex, VEX, in Vex Robotics stand for? We've been running stories about the robotics team for quite a while. So I thought it was an acronym. It is not an acronym. It is all capitalized whenever you see it, but it is not an acronym. Vex, it's the common usage of the word vex. If you are vexed, you are puzzled or challenged or what have you, and that's what it means. What I found here is Vex Robotics is not an acronym. It is a word chosen to mean to confound or to puzzle, perfectly fitting the problem-solving nature of robotics and STEM education. Now, again, the reason why I'm mentioning this is because the robotics team is an extension of the STEM program within the Coffee County school system, and then within the other school systems that have robotics teams. Why it's important is because it teaches a hands-on, practical set of skills that kids can use and will use as they move forward. It teaches engineering, it teaches problem solving, it teaches some mechanical skills, and it also teaches kids how to operate on the fly, how to make quick decisions when you're confronted with a dilemma. Because when you're in these robotics competitions, and if you've never seen one, you ought to pull it up and watch it. They build robots to complete tasks. And with any piece of equipment, with any piece of machinery, there are mechanical failures. It doesn't operate the way that it should. You have to solve these problems, and you're doing so in a competitive nature and in a competitive environment, the same type of environment that you will meet, that you'll be faced with in the real world. All right. So sometimes we wonder, well, when you're dealing with algebra and trigonometry and things like that, how am I going to use this in the real world? And I have never had to use any of that stuff. I never have, but of course, the field that I'm in, you're probably not going to. There are a few jobs where you do have to use that. And I watched my father-in-law one time figuring, fencing in a yard or doing something like that, and trying to figure out square footage and how to do that. And I watched him use a little bit of algebra to figure out a portion of the yard, the measurements of which he did not have. And he was using, some of this stuff to figure it out. So I know there is practical application. But for the most part, the answer is no. You're not going to use a lot of that. But when you're dealing with something like this, you will. And as our job market becomes more automated, it becomes more dependent upon robotics, more dependent upon artificial intelligence. The types of skills that these kids are learning in the robotics program have a direct correlation and a direct application to what they will do after they graduate from high school. And our robotics team does a good job. Jerry Hill is the advisor out there. He does a fantastic job with these kids. And it's amazing to watch them work. You give them a task, you show them what they have to do, and then you sit back and you watch. And these kids figure all of it out on their own. And some of these robots that they use are pretty sophisticated pieces of machinery. So it's pretty neat to watch them build this, develop this, and then compete with them, because this is a competition as well. So you're not just doing something you're building something to complete a job. You're building it to complete the job better, faster, and more efficiently than anyone else. Again, the same types of skills that you will have to have in the job market. So pretty neat thing. Congratulations to the robotics team. They do not get the attention that they deserve. CCA football. It still amazes me that a lot of people do not know that CCA has a football team, but they do. They played the first year of varsity football last season. This season was the first year that they had a region schedule, and they actually were not supposed to play a region schedule this year, but some things within the region changed, and they were forced is not the right word, but strongly encouraged to go ahead and play a region schedule this year. They did well. They finished with a 6-5 record and made the playoffs for the first time in program history. And when you talk about program history, you do go back into the 70s a little bit. And then you have one year, I believe it was 2006, they had a football team, but nothing since then. So it was a history-making season on a number of levels. You had 3 Patriots named to the GIAA Region 2 All-Region team, junior Tyson Crosby, and then 2 freshmen, Dalton Rogers and Clay Phillips, earned postseason recognition for their performances. Rogers was also named to the GIAA All-State team. Crosby led the Patriots in receiving with 423 yards and 6 touchdowns, while also adding 6 rushing touchdowns. Clay Phillips anchored the defense, leading the team with 15.5 sacks and averaging 8 tackles per game. He did this without playing the last few games of the season. He injured his ankle. The other thing about Clay is he's a pretty good baseball player too. And he was a significant contributor to the baseball team's state championship run last year as an 8th grader. So he was a starter as an 8th grader on a state championship team. And he came in as defensive lineman and was having a really good year and a big part of the Patriots' success early on. And then he suffered a broken bone in one of his feet. They could have rushed him back, but because baseball season's not far away, the end of football season, you get pretty close to baseball season. They wanted to make sure he was healed up, so they were a little bit conservative with that and pulled him out. So even missing the last few games with injury, he still led the team, 15.5 sacks, 8 tackles per game. He's a really good player. You need to pay attention to him in football and baseball moving forward. Dalton Rogers had a phenomenal season as well. He rushed for 1,159 yards and 9 touchdowns. He almost got 1,000 yards during the regular season. He came up a little bit short, but overall, 1,159 yards, 9 touchdowns. Rogers, just a freshman, going to be a really, really good football player. And I'll tell you, this was a lot of fun following the Patriots this year. It really is. And they've got a good program out there. Coach Marsh, Jed Marsh, does a really good job. It's a lot of fun being involved in that program and being around that program and seeing the excitement that football generates for the school and for that for that community, and it's only going to grow as the program continues to get better and continues to expand. They're playing 8-man football right now, and the plan is to expand it to 11-man football here over the next couple of years. They need a few more players. They don't quite have the depth that they need to play 11-man, but 8-man is pretty competitive. And these kids had a lot of fun and played very well. Again, it was neat being a part of it and sort of getting involved with the program at the beginning here, and it's fun to watch it grow and develop and to see where it's headed. Let's take a look at our tower cam, which we do every time on Douglas Now Live. Beautiful day again. We went a while without seeing the sun, but we do have some sun. Cold this morning, really cold yesterday morning. Weather looks pretty good for the rest of the week. Temperatures are going to rise a bit. Still going to be cool mornings, warmer afternoons, high 30s, low 40s in the mornings, up to the mid to high 60s in the afternoons. Thursday, 80% chance of rain, going to be a low of about 50, high of about 67. So that's not going to be a very nice day. Thursday could be a little bit nasty if that forecast holds up. But after that, we should be heading into the weekend with some good weather, some sunshine, kind of the same thing. Cooler mornings, warmer afternoons. So not a bad weather forecast for the rest of the week. You can get that nastiness out of the way on Thursday and have a good weekend. The last weekend, I believe, before Christmas arrives. So again, get your shopping done, get those last minute preparations done. Christmas will be here before you know it. Then the new year will be here. And I will go ahead and tell you, it's hard for me to imagine that we're staring 2026 in the face. I still have a hard time writing 2025. I messed the date up. I still write checks occasionally. I'm kind of a dinosaur in that regard. I'll still write a few checks. And when I have to write the date, sometimes I still mess that up 11 and a half months into the year. So still hadn't got used to 2025, fixing to be 2026. The joys of getting older. Those are our top stories here on DouglasNow.com. On this Tuesday, again, we will be updating the website throughout the day and into tomorrow. If there's breaking news, we will be here early. Otherwise, we will see you on Thursday when we do our tower cam. Maybe the weather will change. Maybe it won't be a nasty, cold, rainy tower cam. But if it doesn't change, that's what it will be. Hope everyone's having a wonderful, wonderful Tuesday. Again, I hope you have a wonderful afternoon. We will see you guys on Thursday, if not before.